it is a matter of public interest, and I request that, like I said in the opening remarks, we limit ourselves to the issue at hand, which is actually an important issue. This constitution that I hold in my hand was promulgated 2010. This constitution, Kenyans have fought so hard to birth this 2010 constitution. It is a constitution that cuts across board, and actually everybody is bound by the 2010 constitution. The supremacy of this constitution is not in question, and therefore, as the Swahili saying goes, sheria ni msumeno inakata mbele na nyuma. Therefore, I urge this committee, as you go down to do your report, to remember that this select committee will set a precedence for future, because I'm sure there'll be more, for future motions like this, and also in the public interest of the people of Kenya who are suffering. Honorable committee, as you are aware, the last 2 days, Kenyans have watched these proceedings. And today I have to say this, that the Honorable Cabinet Secretary, Mithika Linturi, the issue is not about the CS Minturi. The issue is about accountability and transparency. The CS, in his written documents in page 6, alluded and highlighted the duties of a cabinet secretary. Needless to say, one of the duties, as per his documents himself, is to appoint a board for members of public institutions. That board is the mandate of the cabinet secretary. It is not for Mama Mboga. It is not for me as an advocate. It's not for you members of parliament. It is the duty of a cabinet secretary. The minute you fail to do your duty, that means you lead this country to a mess. That means the process is flawed. That means another entity is taking up the job that was ideally supposed to be done by a board. We wouldn't be here had he done his job. What you're simply saying, the Honorable CS actually slept on his job. When he stands here to tell millions of Kenyans who are watching that it is work in progress, or that he found this and it is still work in progress, that when he came his predecessors didn't do this, that's not an excuse. It is not value for taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money is supposed to be used unanimously for the common good of Kenyans. The minute a cabinet secretary admits that it is work in progress in these proceedings and admits that yes, there was a board that has been brought to his attention, that means you're sleeping on your job. That means that you are responsible directly. Had you done your part, then the question would be, did the board do his job? Why didn't this situation, why didn't the CS actually ensure the board is in place? I'm sure that, as committee members, should be the first question we ask without giving excuses. We appoint Kenyans, we elect leaders, and the president is elected unanimously by Kenyans. The president appoints a cabinet secretary. It is the duty of the cabinet secretary to do his job and not to tell us about other people who've not done their job. At the moment, he's the cabinet secretary. The buck stops with him. As per, again, his bundles of documents, he wrote a letter on page 367 that they have actually relied on, asking to confirm the contents of a fertilizer. That again is usurping authority, because the act is very clear. It is the board that is mandated to do that job. But here we are, the cabinet secretary wants to actually substep the law, avoid setting up the board, and as a result usurp power and give power to an entity that does not have the legal mandate to actually procure and distribute the fertilizer. We are not here to ask many questions. It's a simple, straightforward. As Kenyans, we need to learn to take personal responsibility. What image are we giving the young Kenyans? That they'll be committing a crime and we'll all say, no, you are not in that docket when you took over. Will the law be selective on cabinet secretaries and persons of high office, or will it be cutting across board that as members of this committee we will raise? Again, on the same, you can see that there is a letter on page 267 on the bundles that we shared. The PS, who is the chief accounting officer under his ministry, again, which still he's the head of the ministry, writes to select a committee, and what they call is a committee and appoints people. There is no provision of the law for that committee. What the ministry, through the head, who is the cabinet secretary, ought to have done is set up the board. Instead, the CS does not set up the board. Instead, a different entity which has no mandate legally goes ahead to do the procurement. Instead, the same ministry, which is headed by the CS, appoints a committee that we do not know where the powers come from and what that committee is all about. Honorable members, as you can see, the issue before us, call it fake fertilizer, call it substandard, give it all the English names that we can decide to adduce. Bottom line is, Kenyans have suffered. The question of fake fertilizer or substandard is not value addition for Kenya's hard-earned taxpayers' money. Kenyans wake up every morning to actually go and build this nation. It will be disastrous for this country to allow people to sleep on their job and we come and politicize or give excuses. Kenyans need value addition for their money. So you can call it all names, substandard, fake fertilizer, bring all names. But bottom line remains, there are farmers who are affected. There are farmers who, as per this same constitution that guides all Kenyans, regardless of your social status, are affected by virtue of Article 46. There are Kenyans who are affected, their socio-economic rights have been tampered with as per Article 43. There are Kenyans who feel that as schools open on Monday, they're actually in a quagmire. Why? Their source of livelihood is now tampered with. So we cannot sit here and pretend that we are not addressing the issue. Whether it is substandard or fake fertilizer, the question remains, had the CS done his job and not slept on his job, we wouldn't be where we are. Honorable members of this committee, the CS, again, you can see there's an admission, again, in our bundle of documents, page 130, where the CS actually, the KEBS, which is mandated, actually, in a report of this same Honorable House through the Committee of Agriculture, admit that yes, there was substandard, but we did not actually give the certification of KEBS. It shows the inconsistency. This is a cabinet secretary who wakes up in the morning and gives different versions to the media. Does that elude Article 73, which actually, and I request to read it just in part, that the CS is mandated, and that applies to all public servants. It is very clear in Article 73, and it says that a public authority assigned to a state officer is a public trust, and I underline trust, exercised in a manner that demonstrates respect for the people, brings honor to the nation and dignity to the office, but above all, promotes public confidence in the integrity of the office. Where is that integrity of the office? When the CS, instead of now seeing there's a crisis and handling the crisis and also taking partial responsibility or full responsibility that it is under his docket that he slept on his job, comes and gives us several versions of what he feels is correct. And at the same time, does not also admit. In his bundle of documents, he talked about the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, which is a very good manifesto as Kenyans. He actually takes credit, and you can see that in page 17, paragraph 29, where he says that the manifesto was a Kenya Kwanza manifesto. But remember that Article 153.2 is very clear that there are some duties which is collective. He's part of that government. You cannot come and say, when things are good, clap for me as a CS, I've done a very good job. But when you fail to do your part, you're not also honest and dignified enough to come and say, these are the errors we faced. Honorable members of this select committee, I would wish to bring to your attention that as a result of the failure of that board, opened a lot of doors for Kenyan farmers to actually suffer. That one act that Kenyans are forgetting, all these other side shoes, is not the topic of discussion. The topic of discussion is that there is fake, or they can call substandard fertilizer in the market, and Kenyans are actually looking and watching to see, does this law cut across board, or is it only applicable to Wamboka down there? The same CS ought to take responsibility because the buck stops with him. Again, I would wish to just highlight a few of the jurisdictions in different parts of the world, because we don't live as an island. Countries like Hungary, where the Hungarian president resigned due to giving clemency, a pardon, to a man that he had been jailed. he, due to public, again, 73, I'm assuming they also know that, decided to step down. That is a head of state. It doesn't end there. His predecessor, and just to bring to highlight that Judy Varga, also the Minister of Justice, who approved that pardon before the president, also decided to step down. In the same scenario, Vietnam had two heads of state who stepped aside. One because of a corruption scandal, another because of gross misconduct in his administration. We have instances like Portugal, where the PM also submitted his resignation letter due to corruption. We have Estonia, where also the PM at that time, because of a scandal involving pandemic relief, decided to step aside and actually resigned. We are talking about heads of state. Again, here across in our continent, in South Africa, you know what happened with Jacob Zuma. So this issue, as a country, that whenever we fail, we want to bring up so many stories and contradiction, morality warrants that we take the lead and say, I have done this success in my ministry, but these are my failures, because no human is perfect. But we can't always be running away. And we want Kenyans to feel that it's value for their hard-earned money. Kenyans bestow upon us a duty to fight for this constitution. Kenyans bestow a duty that we ought to do our part. And like I said, as the members retreat to do their report, I humbly request that you go through the bundle of documents that we supplied, especially on the Fertilizer Act, because that is an act that this Honorable House passed. It is not Kenyans. So if the Honorable House did its job, the CS has no excuse why that has not been implemented. It is not up to Mama Mboga to decide how you will run your ministry. All these other things are sideshows. But I repeat, the Honorable Committee should look at that, because even the function of subsidized fertilizer falls in that act. And it is that board that was supposed to do it. So these other things of us accepting and saying, oh, it is work in progress, Kenyans have suffered. You cannot tell us it's work in progress. You cannot usurp authority as the CS, writing letters asking the chemical composition of things. That is not your duty. We expect you to do what you're supposed to do. When you fail to do what you're supposed to do, you come and give a story that we do not understand. Honorable members, as I conclude to allow my senior, the issue of procurement under 227 is supposed to be on transparency. And the issue of transparency has not been achieved in this process by virtue, again, of the CS failing to do his part. The CS, on a number of occasions, and the public is aware, has come out to actually call it different scenarios. One, there is no fake fertilizer. Two, no, it is a soil conditioner. No, it is substandard. That itself erodes public confidence. How do you expect us to trust you with that same office that we as taxpayers pay our hard-earned money to contribute to the GDP of this country, and you stand and tell us different versions, and you think you can have the public trust? The Mama Mboga watching today wants to see what the select committee will do, because the law is very clear. We are not here to care who is the CS. Our issue is we want to see what you're doing for Kenyans. And if there is a problem, you ought to come out and give us one version, not to give us several versions. Let us learn to respect the law. Let us execute the law to the letter. As you can see, there are various infringements to this constitution. Article 46 has been affected. Article 43, 73, 227, Article 2. And as I conclude, like I said, the Constitution of Kenya is the supreme law. Kenyans expect that we as state, as a cabinet secretary, he should actually do what is onerous. If other jurisdictions that are developed more than us take personal responsibility, I urge this honorable committee not to turn a blind eye, not to say that we are in a political situation. There's nothing politics about it. Anybody who does not follow the law, we don't care as Kenyans which part of the coalition you are, whether you're in government or opposition, it's none of our business. Our business is, are you doing the job that the people of Kenya have entrusted you to do? That is the moral fabric of any society, that we have accountability. And like I said, the CS cannot run away, because cabinet secretaries are accountable individually or collectively for manifestos by their governments that are in place, and especially the office. So it is demeaning for the office holder to actually come out and actually openly admit that yes, this was an oversight, we did not know of this act or we did not do. It is not up to us to do that. You actually usurp authority by moving ahead and actually appointing and giving entities to run your show. And then you come and tell us a different version of the story. Article 2, like I said, gives the supremacy of this great document that I hold in my hands today. And like I said, Kenyans will request to see what this honorable committee will come up with. Again, on chapter 6 and integrity, which talks about leadership and integrity. The guiding principles as per Article 73.2 is very clear, honorable members, that decision-making should be impartial. As I rest my case, I request that this honorable committee exercises that, because honesty in the execution of public duties must be of utmost importance for Kenyans. We must endeavor to give objective and impartial decision. And my request to this honorable committee is that as we adjourn to go and do report, please separate and sieve through. It is not anything to do with a witch hunt. It is not anything political. It is about taking personal responsibility. We cannot be taking wine and preaching water when we tell the younger generation that when you do wrong, own up. But as state officers, we want to bind and protect ourselves and continue mutilating the articles, the constitution and acts of parliament. It is our duty. There's no one above the law. We all must endeavor to respect the rule of law. And as such, Kenyans are watching. And my parting shot to the committee is that sheria ni msumeno, inafaa ikate kote, and service to others, as they say, is the rent that we pay for our room here on earth, as per Muhammad Ali, the boxer. So my request is that the committee, as it retreats, let us be devoid of our political affiliations. Let us use what has been presented here, but above all, let us be guided by the law. We will be doing a great injustice if all the time we give an excuse. It is true, today it is the CS, but what message are we passing to Kenyans? That another entity or another state corporation will also do the same mess and appear before the House and say it is work in progress. Will the law and the committee still treat it the same? Is it an issue of wholesomeness as Kenyans and the values of patriotism that we will abide to? My closing submission is, the law is very clear. All these other things I said is sideshows. Let us endeavor to respect the rule of law. If other jurisdictions take personal responsibility and actually give Kenyans the honors, kindly CS, let us also admit we have strength and weaknesses. As we highlight our strength, let us also take personal responsibility for the failures. To the farmers who have suffered this loss, they don't care who is the CS. Most of them do not even know about this motion. Their issue is to lose your fake fertilizer. Sisi tunaumia. They don't care who is the mover of the motion. They don't care who is, but all they want is that justice. And as they work hard to contribute to the GDP and the economy of this country, let us not let down those Kenyans who work hard. And parting short, this is a public interest matter. And as it is a public interest matter, it not only affects us, the CS only directly or the mover of the motion. It affects millions of Kenyans. There is an issue of hunger. Food security is the epitome of any government. The minute you tamper with food, then you make a hungry nation. And the economy is driven by a country that ensures the agricultural sector is blooming. We are a country that depends to some extent on our agricultural sector. So the economy, as we speak, is at jeopardy because those farmers who planted are not able to have produce in the next season. And like they said, they're not even sure if the next season again they will plant. What does that do? It has a ripple effect on the food situation. We will be creating a temporary food shortage, considering also there have been floods. And at the same time, we are affecting the GDP. How? Because the farmers who used to sell the bags have nothing to sell. Are we making this country better, or are we making the situation worse than it is already is? Honorable members, I wish to rest my case and invite my senior, Dr. John Haminwa, to do the parting shot. Thank you.